I nak minta permission, so I may curi a bit of your lunchtime, boleh? Just a bit. Actually, there's so many questions, very good questions. I wish I had longer time lah, but afternoon I have a separate session with a group of people. But anyway, what I'll do is afterwards I will leave my card and you can always call me. And I do understand there's a big difference between public entities and corporate world. That's why I keep saying the context is very important. But what I will do is, in fact, over lunch, I told Prof. Izmi, if I can share with them, I said, Prof, I say AKEPT should be the voice of all the universities. Because what I think, what I'm hearing here, I'm sure you go to another university, sama, lebih kurang. So there must be a voice that drives, because if AKEPT is the machine that is supposed to be producing the talent, then they really need to look at that. And I will try and whisper to Tan Sri, since he's the chairman of AKEPT, but it takes a few. And the good news is, like I say, it so happened yesterday I was with YB Hana, and she is, we brought in Ministry of Human Resource, we brought in a few other ministry. So now they're talking about, we talk about infrastructure, but we forget about talent. We must now focus on talent. So there's a conscious effort in the current government, at least we in the HR directors community, we are pushing it with the government, because otherwise we're going to be left behind. I tell you, I do talks in Jakarta and I do talks in Bangkok. 20 years ago, we're ahead of them. Today, you just take 1% of affluent and educated Indonesia, we're gone. And I can tell you, 2 years ago, I was doing a speaking engagement with some of the corporate women in Jakarta. They are really good. So I am worried for our country, to be honest. They are really good. So we used to have the advantage of being able to have capacity to speak many different languages, and our English was much, much better than the Thais and the Indonesian. Today, we are slightly behind them. So you all play an important role because you are producing the next generation. So we, somebody was, I can't remember, somebody was asking just now, he was asking about, sometimes governments, corporate world is different, right? But I was saying, you talk about bonuses and all that. I disagree with one of my colleagues who says, Nadia, people who leave Setia no good. I said, no, because nobody leaves Setia because good bonus and all. I said, no, I think if we hire people on that basis, what happened when the honey is no more there? Then you turn around, tak ada orang lagi. Right? So Simon Sinek, you can Google, I'm sure you have heard of him. Steve Jobs talks about hiring people with passion and the meaning and purpose. So today, everywhere, I was in the Global Institute of Leadership Development 1 week in Singapore. I was actually a coach because they have programs, and then you have a few coaches. So every coach has about 5 or 6 coaches. And we had this guy from the US talking today. Everyone's talking about meaning and purpose because the world is so volatile. Even if you can promise good money today, tomorrow you can't. So how do you then motivate? Yeah, so let's go through, because I have a lot more to cover. Many of you just now spoke about the multi-generational. So in Setia, we have the same problem, multi-generational workforce. This is the population that we have. 61% Gen Y, 26 Gen X, baby boomers. And the management staff are generally Gen X and baby boomers. So my challenge to drive change is to drive the mindset change. Because if not, we will lose out to competition, because these people will go to our competitors who provide better work environment, who they believe are better leaders, who are probably not close-minded and the sort of thing. So we have to move up and all. So if you get a chance to come to Setia, if you are in KL, you can call me out. Do come and drop by. What we've done is we've changed or you can follow me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of posting on Setia. One of the first things I did last year was I, again, discouraged, because I always say, like, I'm here to contribute, but if I can't leave a legacy and make a difference, then I'm not making any changes. And then maybe it's not the right place for me. But if I am there, I need to challenge the status quo and make sure that I make an effort to drive change if I am in a position that is mandated to do that. So I told Dato', I said, Dato', 61. And you know, my first 2 months, I spent just dicing, going into data analytics. Nobody look into that. Today I can tell them that the highest resignation we have is people from 3 to 5 years. And they come from our executive ranking, which is D ranking. We have all these 15 layers of ranking. And B ranking, which is our managers turning into senior managers. No surprises, because we're number 1. And after 3 years or 5 years, that's the 2 key milestone. They either look for promotion or they look for a different role. You don't give it to them. A mid-sized company can give them. Executive, if they're not promoted next level, they go to a mid-size. Doesn't matter if they're not working for number 1 as big as a tier. The same thing with B ranking in our categories, like senior managers. They want to be GM, but the reality is, if we have 10 GM, that GM doesn't die or get knocked down or don't move, you have no opening. So we're now changing the way we manage. We say, okay, GMs, you need to be rotated and you need to be open, because if you're not moving people down below, you're a blocker, and we're losing a lot of talent. So the whole shift of change in mindset has to come across the levels, because otherwise we lose talent again. That also tells us that, and this is the same slide that I do in my people series. That means everybody sees that. Because in my audience are the Gen X, and in my audience are the baby boomers. So I tell them specific example how Gen Y gets frustrated with Gen X and how Gen X gets frustrated with Gen Y. So the audience understand it and they all can relate to it. So one go, we know that we have the communication in terms of clarity and so on. So listen to understand. This we're still on that VUCA, right? We talk about that. One of the other thing that I did was to introduce this thing called Meet Me at HR. So we are called Group HR. So we are group level dekat HQ. So what happens is people come to see us in HQ. So before this, we don't go down there. So I said to my team, if you sit in your ivory tower, how are you going to know the real issue down there? And then you write policies. Tapi you tak tahu what's happening down there. So you think these policies are fantastic. So I made my team, we do a road show and we go to every BU. Dia macam almost like expo. But by doing so, I'm forcing my team members to know their processes. Actually, you see this. For every, this is admin, this is talent development. So they need to show all the processes that we have. And before they show and share, they need to know themselves. So suddenly they realize, oh, they don't know their own SOPs. And so in other words, I'm making them to kemaskinikan their own understanding. Actually, I think someone reduced the volume of the mic. Huh? It's less because I feel like I need to shout. I have a very soft voice. Can the person bring it back to that level this morning? Boleh tak? I think they reduced the... Yeah. So the other thing is that we give, what we do is we bring in, when we have the LTIP, long-term incentive plan, instead of asking our people to go to the bank and open up their CDS account, we bring the bank. So I said to my people, we need to have customer service mindset. How do we make it convenient for our people so that we add value? Because otherwise, yes, that's better. Otherwise, HR is just a postmaster. So you don't add value. So through the supply, the flow of the process, you just postmaster lah, you coordinate. So I say, we're not here to coordinate, we're here to drive things. And at every point, there must be value added. So in your case, you have to think about, some of you were talking about your projects and then you have dual role as management and all that. You have to think about how do you create that value. But turun ke padang is very important, and when you turun ke padang, you are in a better position to challenge upwards because you have real input, you have real data. So you're not just talking about something that is from hearsay. And I find that when you challenge with data, it works because the data shows. And most of you are engineers, right? You should use graphs. That's how I talk to my CEO who's an engineer. Because otherwise they say, oh, you know, you're just dramatizing the whole thing. So I said, no, Dato', this is the numbers. Well, it's up to you. If you don't do anything, we just face the consequence lah. Itu saja. Huddle your team to provide clarity. So we talk about ambiguity and unique clarity. So one of those things I realized that we push our team very hard, but they feel penat, fatigue, because we're one of those sales gallery buka 7 hari seminggu. So basically you're talking about sales, our sales people, they have to work at least 2 weekends in a month. And they get very tired. So they kind of lose their mojo. So some of you say, how do you drive up that mojo? So we said we have to bring the people together. So we have 38 BUs also. Every BU have got their own sales marketing. But they've never really come together into one. So we had the first huddle. We brought about our sales marketing personnel, 200 plus of them. And sorry, apa ni nama tadi? I can't. Prof, you were asking, is it important to have that war cry, right? So even for our huddle, we had a war cry. Booyah 2018. Booyah means booyah. You all know the meaning of booyah, right? So that brought up the energy with everybody. Satu, the objective was very clear: employee engagement, relationship enhancement, and drive performance. So today they meet their counterparts, and so if they think they are good, they realize they are not jago kampung. Satu. Secondly, they know each other through the network. So you short circuit the process. So for example here, all of you are in the same university, but imagine it's a group where you have mixed university, you already built that network. And one of the most important things to be successful in the 21st century is to have a good network, because with good network, you increase your social capital. I think you've heard of social capital, right? When you have good social capital, you become more effective and you can manage your stakeholder much better because you have influence. And I will have to have another half day to just run through networking and personal branding, because even networking, there's strategic networking, operational networking, and personal networking. So some people, they do network, but they're not strategically networking. And that doesn't really help. But when I say all this, it means you do it without malicious intention, without manipulative kind of intention. Okay. The other thing we created was, they've never had any award winners, so we always have group KPI, we reward them through bonus, so everyone say, okay, you know, they get 6 months bonus, should be happy. But we created the internal competition, and so we have top net sales, and I created this big trophy, and that trophy is going to be, what do you call that? Piala Pusingan. So it's going to move. So today it's sitting in Johor, because Johor was the winner last year. So now Johor is trying to defend that trophy from moving from their office, because next year it's going to move if they don't get the top sales. So internally you're rallying. Someone says, how do you rally? How do you energize your team? Energizing your team is very important, because when you energize, it becomes a viral. One of the things that we also realize is this whole reward and recognition. I think some of you spoke about it, right? So the 3 head of sales and marketing, they came up to stage and spoke. And 2 of them are ladies, emotional sikit lah kan. The 2 ladies, they were tearing, because one, Lina, was saying, 18 years she worked, and every year, Bandar Setia Alam always achieve their targets, and they are the ones who achieve their targets for the whole group, because we have group KPI. So some of the group, some of the BU achieve target, but they still get bonus because someone else is paddling the sampan harder, and of course they get extra bonus lah. Tapi penat, dia kata, 18 years they're paddling it. But they say, but having this recognition, although it's not monetary, means a lot to them, because they feel that everybody else sees that and recognize that. So you'll be surprised that this simple, emotionally connecting recognition drives a lot in motivation. Okay. So be humble enough to evolve and shift in order to be agile. Remember the last one, you got to be agile. So one of those first things that we did was, when number 1 in the market, I hope we can get number 1 this year, I'm not sure, because the Edge Property Award is quite challenging. If you heard of Aon Hewitt Best Employer Award, We are 8 times winner. Actually, last year when I joined them, I was very nervous. So, but you imagine if they didn't win and I joined, I better resign, because before that 7 times they win, right? So the first thing when the results came out, the MD of Aeon Hewitt called me. Nadia, I know you're pretty nervous. Let me tell you, you guys are in the list. It's, I tell you, no joke, 7 times winner, and it's not easy, yeah, because there are few. One is your employer will fill up 1,000 plus, and then HR have to do the write-up, you have to justify. So you think you can goreng lah, tapi the next page they say, okay, you say you had this, how did you measure it? So there's no way to goreng it. And a lot of work because you have to write and justify and so on. So it's a well worth award compared to some awards yang boleh beli lah. Yang ni memang you tak boleh beli punya. So what we found out was, although we're number 1, but then we need to run faster than our competitor, because while we're driving on the highway, everyone else is trying to overtake us. Everyone. And there was a feeling that there was a bit of complacency coming in, because normal when you are successful, you know, you think you can rest on your laurel, but the management is very clear. So we actually looked at what were the feedback. Every year we have a people pulse survey and we listen. So I have this tebal punya report yang you even have the verbatim, and my job I have to read, and sometimes names are coming out. But looking at patterns, because if you just look at statistics, it means nothing, but I have to connect it with the verbatims. And from there we hear our people. As much as we're number 1, we still have issues in leadership. We still have GMs or senior managers who are not doing their job properly. And we're concerned because we always talk about sustainability. So what we did was, this year we said, we hear you. So we rolled out this whole program embedding coaching culture. So we had a consultant to come and work with us. But what I said to this consultant was, I would like you to understand the culture of the company, because I don't want you to come and just tell us this is. So he went and looked around, spoke to 78 people, managers and executives randomly at the different BUs, and then he comes up with a report and present it to the top management and myself. Well, some of the findings I dah tahu lah, no surprises, but some of it is quite scary to tell the management that actually this is happening. Because I have a management who's been there for the last 20 years, the last 30, 40 years. Are you saying that what we've been doing is wrong? So some of you have that issue. Because you say, are you telling me you want to tell your senior that whatever they're doing is not right? They were there before you and they were doing well. But the reality is some things have to change. So change management, sometimes you need to use, I give you some tips lah, you need to use third party juga. Actually you know the problem, but you need to use third party. So in this case you can use me, so you can use Professor Ismi there. Okay? So that's why I asked you to do all that. So she's listening and she's taking notes, okay? So you need to use third party because it has more credibility, because there's neutral facts and so on. So what we found out is we do coaching, but we do directive coaching. I think I mentioned it earlier on. So what we did was we designed a program, and that's my Datuk CEO. He himself attended the program for 2 days. Because I said, Dato', if you don't sit in, you don't understand the language and the process that we're talking about, then it won't. And you have to demonstrate and role model. So he actually sat in. Of course, when he sat in, people are not so open lah, naturally. But after a while, they were, because the trainer actually, because I told the trainer, I said, you got to be open, because my job is to drive this change. You must tell Dato', because Dato' COO, this is CEO. My Dato' CEO is very calm, very polite. My Dato' CEO is opposite, they are both yin and yang, but they're all very experienced. Dato' CEO were like, you know, very, banyak orang takut lah dengan dia. But actually he's a very nice person, because he is so good in what he does that he can find your mistakes easily. So whenever he's in the meeting, tak berani, orang tak berani nak cakap. And then he asked the trainer, so are these, and these are all GMs, are they participative when I'm not around? Then the trainer said, yes. When you're around, they're not so. So we had a round table session, and we went one by one. Dato' says, why? And you know it takes a lot of pride and respect, because for the leader to say that, because he wants to hear the input. So we went around, everybody tell why. And we're seeing some changes because it takes courage to then say it. So we did that, and we say leadership starts from top. The role modeling, this is the COO, he's 62 years old. He's been in the company for 41 years. So you can imagine, cannot goreng punya. Okay? From site, from down, he's now COO. And these are all the GMs, and we did a lot of stuff that is very real and practical, and a lot of discussion. So we have 3 levels. For the top management, it's called transformational coaching. For the middle management, we do coaching for growth. That means they come back with a toolkit. And then for the executive, we call building resilience, because the down below, they always complain about their bosses. So we now teach them, how do you manage your boss? And how do you own some of the issues? Because some of the issues, because they don't own. So some of your team members, you say that they don't do their work. You have to follow up, because they're not having accountabilities. So they always blame the bosses. So the 3 programs, there are a few modules that is common. Like we cover state of mind, for example. So they understand it. So we speak the same language. But there is an expectation while the management is trained to coach, the people below is trained to drive personal accountability. So that design of the program is very important. Okay, so is an organizational development intervention. The other thing that we realize also is that when we promote people, we promote them without training them. Most often, you go for training selepas dipromote kan? Actually, that's wrong. You should train the person before they are being promoted. So I hope you guys are ready for the slate for the next role, and that's what we're today. And you know, when we promote people and we don't prepare them, so when they fail, we say, oh, non-performing. But actually we didn't prepare them, because when someone moves, and there's a book that you can refer, this is an old book but you can refer, it's called the Leadership Engine. It talks about the 6 levels when someone moves from an executive to a next level, and when you have to manage junior people versus you have to manage senior people, it's very different. The leadership behavior is very different. So what we did is, and I happen to be, I'm a development person, so I design programs too. So after observing and all that, together with my talent management head, we designed a program which is now mandatory for all newly promoted managers. And it's been a very successful program now, because when I started it last year, I said, you know, to fulfill the vision is I want this program to be the program that people want to be in the program. Instead of saying, oh my God, do I have to come? So we started that program last year. There are 9 modules, actually 10 lah. One is mentoring. 9 modules, and we follow the employee cycle. So because many times when someone is hired, so I'm not sure whether in the university you do that, because this is when it comes to your management role, right? They don't even know how to interview. So first we start with building self-awareness, hiring, development, performance management, career progression. So we spoke about it just now. How do you have career conversations? So I personally run 3 modules. I run some of the slides you saw today, or you're going to see, are some of the slides that they cover. I cover VUCA with them first time. So I said, now you can go and take Tarikh and action dengan kawan-kawan you can talk about VUCA. Your friend probably haven't heard of VUCA. But they need to know. So it has to open up from their end. Managers of the 21st century, and then we repeat again 18 by 21 sampai dah tak boleh nak masuk lagi. Okay, it's top of mind, right? And then I do one module on personal branding, which is very important. And I ask them, what is the leadership brand that you have today? They walk away thinking about it very deeply. And you know what? These are construction people, finance. Every module they have to stand in front and talk, express, presentation. Because as a leader, if you cannot communicate and you cannot articulate your ideas, you cannot be a good leader. You have to master that communication skills. That is the first one, because when you talk about being a leader, there's these 2 things. Form and substance. I don't know whether you've heard of this. So form and substance. So when we look at talent, we look at these 2 things. Form, obviously, how you carry yourself, your packaging lah. and then substance is your content. So generally, some people they have form, they get through, but they get found out because tak ada content. But some people ada substance, tapi tak ada form. I don't know whether I can share this, but maybe I can share. Last meeting we had with the Minister, Datuk Seri Idris Juso, he said to me, Nadia, some of my dean pakai tie pun saya ingat, pakai belt pun tak betul, macam mana nak jadi dean? This is exactly what he said to me. So that's form, because it is very important. So kalau you ada substance, tapi you tak ada form, you don't even get to the gate. Tak boleh masuk langsung. Sebab first impression tak ada peluang. But if you have form, you get through the gate, but maybe you won't last long. You will get found out, trust me. Orang yang cakap pandai pun, you will be found out somehow. That's why when you get found out, you will fail miserably and your reputation will go down the drain, your personal branding will go bad. And in this world of technology and market is so small, once you have a discredited personal branding, there goes your future. So it's very important, form and substance. So when you talk about form and substance here, I go through with them on personal branding because their team will look up to them and they must feel proud and to be able to say, that is my boss. I belong to his team. So what I like you to think about is you go back and figure out, think for yourself, what is your leadership brand? Because every one of us is unique. What is the projection? So personal branding is what do people talk about you when you are not in the room? Because you're not there to represent yourself. What do people remember? And it's a perception game, yeah? It's a perception game. But it's so important. Because that's the one that will get you through the next level. Okay, but you must have substance lah after that. So we did this and we have now trained almost 70 people. We just started the third batch, and by end of the year we will train about 100 people. So what we did was we combed through the ones who got promoted the last 2 years, and we do this. And then I found out one discovery. So these are managers. They report to senior managers. Some of the senior managers not even at that level. Tapi I cannot be sending the senior managers to this program. It's insulting them. But some of them are not even at this level. They may have knowledge of one module, this module tak ada. So this is a super structured program designed internally, but I also use an external program consultant here, and we use some profiling and all that. And then my senior leader will come in one of the sessions to mentor and share 1 hour of their journey and so on. It's very effective. And then they have an individual development plan which they need to think about, and they need to do it for their staff. So it's very skill-based kind of thing. They have graduation. We have award winners. So not everybody wants to be in the program. Latest I heard is they're all asking my team, when can I get on the program? So to me, that's an achievement because they have heard how good it is, and so you create the demand for it. Okay? So going back to your team, those with issues with team, how do you ensure that the rest of your team will work? You identify your A players, work on your A players, show some deliverables, and then your A players will influence your B players and C players. So you use that positive influence to influence the masses rather than concentrating on your problem all the time. And then you forget about that. So it's easier to focus on the success story to influence those who are not following. Okay, so what? How do we deal with VUCA? I think we talked about it just now. Very quickly, wisdom. To acquire wisdom, you need to be observing. Hence, you really need to spend time with your team, understand their issues and so on. You need to have compassion, nurturing and caring, because that's why the first slide is leading from the heart, and you can take that book from, who's the guy who wrote the 8 stacks of change management? Suddenly I just lost his name. Who wrote that book on change management? Oh my God. No, I just lost it. It was there just now. Then when it comes back, he wrote the book on change management, and he has got these 8 steps. The second book, he talks about leading from the heart. So how do you motivate your team? Because if you're working for a public company, a public university that cannot give 8 months bonus, how do you incentivize them? Because if you always incentivize with something, then you're creating a subsidy mentality. So it has to be a self-driven, and how do you create that meaning and purpose that they feel the job that they do is important. Now communication, as a leader, how do you package that? So in Setia we say we don't build houses, we build homes. We build homes where family can live in conducive environment and fun environment with good schools and safe environment so that they can then enjoy a good, happy family. That's so much different, the value proposition, than say, we sell 8 million houses or we sell houses with all this. So how you package that storytelling is very important. How do you storytell? To inspire your team, your storytelling is important. Just like William Wallace did. I think those who watch the movie, some people say, oh, you're not William Wallace. We've heard that William Wallace has got, is huge and it's the size of the shoes is, don't know, whatever size and all, that's all what they hear. But he knows how to tie the story, and finally they all fought for him, even though it was quite clear that they will lose the war.
I just need your help to clarify from your point of view. When we talk about how can we gain support or from the team, right? You mentioned about just now building a home. So my question is, let me put it this way. I think from my experience. Before that, I just need to say sorry because I am very new to UTHM. So what I say would be wrong or would be correct. So if I'm wrong, please do not hesitate to correct me. Okay. To me, to get support and for people to work happily is that they need to have the sense of belonging. Right? Do you agree with me? So this sense of belonging as well is very correlate to trust. So I trust my boss needs to trust me. But this sense of belonging and this trust needs to be in real projection. I mean the enforcement. Macam mana you show that you trust me. Macam mana your boss show that dia trust me and I trust him. The way I look at the condition right now, since I am very new, can I share my experience? In my experience in the private sector, they are looking a different way right now. Kalau dulu, everything is like enforcement. You have to clock in at 8, you have to go out at 5. But now they are moving in a different direction. They are more flexible because they say, okay, if I give you flexible, you have the outcome should be better. But when I joined UTHM or maybe any other government industry, it's going an opposite way. I'm not so sure how the lecturer punya way of doing things before. They say it's more flexible. So the way I look at it is, private is going different way. Tapi mungkin ini IPTA is going a different way. Maksudnya dia akan enforce. Bila you enforce semua benda, it looks like you don't trust us. Paksa rela. And the way people looking at the university, at the lecturers, the professors, these are our professionals, highly educated. You are not supposedly to be treated that way. Okay, so my point is, when you give more trust to people, most probably you will have a better outcome. Before that, Okay, before this, my boss, my company punya ni lah way of doing things memang macam tu lah, very strict, bla 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 bla. Tapi bila dia bagi kita sedikit kelonggaran, kita rasa kita lebih bertanggungjawab. Okay, kalau dulu bos cakap you must datang kerja, nanti you akan siapkan benda ni. But now it's a different thing. Dia cakap we give you flexibility, you can work from home ke, you maybe certain days lah. And then I think the outcome is better than you just push people hardly. Okay, that is one thing. I have second point, but I think it's enough. Maybe Aina, from your point of view, adakah benda tu praktis yang lebih baik to have more flexible, or we enforce people to do things? Because Hanayo pun sekarang is like open up a little bit kan. So macam mana?
Okay, what you say is very, very true. So even when I came from multinationals, generally it's like that. So local companies is similar to macam government agencies kan. Still not as flexible. Kenapa? I tell you why. Because many people don't want to take that tough conversation. So contohnya, when I came, I'm used to flexible work arrangement. So I tell my staff, I've got a team, talent management team. I say I would like you all to think of these strategies. The senior manager is Gen X, the two executives are Gen Y. I said, and we are next to the City Mall. I say you can go and work at Starbucks, I don't care. If you think that will give you more ideas, pergi, but make sure you come back with. So clarity in what is to be delivered, but you're free, because I know this is the group that will work. But as a leader, you must identify. Sometimes you tahu kaki-kaki goreng, kaki-kaki abuse ni. Okay? So masalahnya, a lot of companies they don't want to do that because they don't want to have that conversation to betulkan orang yang abuse. Jadi disebabkan setitik nila, semua orang tak dapat benefit tu. Simple. Okay? It happens in corporation as well. And then what happens is, can we put this in SOP? Can we put it in KPI? Semua nak KPI. Because kalau dia tak buat, KPI. Because that leader, when I say leader tu tak kira lah senior manager ke, it means your peranan as a pemimpin, you don't want to have that tough conversation and say, you're not doing your job. But if it's KPI, you can sembunyi belakang KPI, say, you tak buat KPI you. And then every single thing nak masuk SOP. Then I say, we don't need managers, we don't need leaders. Because if something goes wrong, I say, hang on, clause 4.2, a robot will tell you. The reason why we have leaders and managers, because we're supposed to use our judgment, we're supposed to have the courage to differentiate between something that's wrong, tackle that. We have the same issue even. I know you come from Western Digital, it's quite advanced American company kan, Western. Did you say you came from Western Digital before that? Okay. So even multinational, depending, American companies are a lot more open because it goes back to the budaya kerja, the culture. So to answer your question, yes, it is true. The way forward, I will show you one slide. There's one book called Lead the Work. The future is that, okay, the group that manages study, the last batch, we took them out for a site visit. We took them to this company called Mind Valley. Maybe you've not heard of them, but you can Google. Mind Valley is started by this Malaysian who was working in the US, and he came back because he wants to start a company in Malaysia. It deals with content, online content, and 90% of his employees are foreigners. What he does is he created a global company based in Malaysia, but it's open. Anybody who is good can work in the company. So I took my group of 20 over people, and there they have this flexible work arrangement. You can come in anytime you want. Dia tak ada office hour, and they are programmers and all that. Now you can do that if you have already laid down and prepared the organization. So the readiness is very important, because just because somebody is doing it, you say, okay, we should go. But while you're doing it, it's like building a runway for an airport, right? So you need to build the runway for your new plane to land. So it's not as simple as that lah. Simple answer, yes, that should be the way. If we don't, and we just discussed yesterday, we will be ketinggalan and the competition will take over. You will not be able to attract the best talent because the best talent would not want to work in this environment. And you're right, you guys are highly educated, you're professors, and you shouldn't be treated that way. Okay, so mindset as well. And I'm not sure that's one, but among you, you must also have that different mindset as well, because you are teaching students who are going to be industry player 5 years down the road, 4 years down the road. They must be prepared for the future of work. The future of work is very different. So, you know, people talk about no more cubicle, you know. When I was in Nestle, when we move the office, I have senior manager yang dah tua-tua ni, kira dulu Nadia, my ceiling ada 6 kotak, now I only got 4 kotak ni. Zaman dulu-dulu lah kan, the bigger your office mana, the more powerful you are. But no meaning anymore. So, but it's easier said. You have to change the mindset first. That's why you saw the coaching tadi, what we did was mindset change first. And then you build the infrastructure, and then you go full swing. Okay? So,
sorry, you mentioned about to motivate someone in a team. Let's say, if you want to motivate B, you use A. So A can do 10. So B, look at how A have done it, 10. But at certain level, at one point, I think we have to agree that people have different strengths and weaknesses. So I would say that as a layman, I think a different KPI should be set for different people. It may still in the same, I mean, there's some guide to it, but we cannot simply say if you, A, can produce 10, then B should produce 10 too. I think it's quite a, I don't know, because I think you have more experience than me in this type of situation. So if you don't mind giving us suggestions, then I think it would be very beneficial.
okay, just correction, when I say A, B, C, you're actually identifying the different engine power they have. So A is a BMW, B is, I don't know, Toyota, and maybe C is Perodua. Okay? So agree, everyone has got different strengths and all that. But if A and B are doing the same job, you cannot have different KPI, because then you're punishing your A players. But what you say is same KPI, but your A player is getting an extra bonus because they are doing it much faster and much better. But you will have to accept, that's why I need more than the half day, because there is this thing where you need to understand their learning styles, you need to understand their motivation factor and all that. But most importantly is to get the right person at the right job. What we have today is sometimes we have the wrong person in the wrong job. So we were just talking just now over lunch. We promote people because they do well in their job. So they may be a very good technical person. It always happen in IT. Yeah? Good technocrats. Then you promote the person to become a people leader. My God, because of that one person you promote, 10 people resign. Because he's so rubbish at being a people leader. Not everybody can be a leader. So it's always the case of the wrong person in the wrong job. Now, the workforce of the future, in American companies, they already started. When I was in Microsoft, already beginning, that was I left 2010. 7 years ago, they already started that. You could be a manager having someone reporting to you earning more than you, because that guy has a specialist. So in Setia, I introduced that fact, tapi I'm still slowly inching on it because I have to influence and socialize, they call it socialize the idea. Because I've seen how we damage other people's career and the people around them when you promote them wrongly. So, but they are so good in what they do. So, especially in engineering company, they're great engineers, but they're terrible general managers. So, you know, they're great engineers, terrible in. So why bother? So what we say is that in the HR world, we have two tracks, two career tracks. Dulu, people say the only way for me to move up, maybe in university you feel that way, the only way for me to move up is to do a management role. If I don't do management role, I will be stuck. That's wrong way of thinking. We should do 2 career track. If that person is good in technical line, build a career path that grows in their technical. Some people are very good in research, but they're lousy. Bahagian pengurusan ni memang lousy. Don't get that person into management. So that's something that AKEPT maybe have to think about in universities as well. Because I remember some discussions there we talk about even deans. Deans are quite, not quite, very important role, because the deans are like the CEO of a university, right? So, or a CEO of a faculty, or whatever you call it. So, like a GM, right? So, they must have leadership quality, because if they don't have, then they cannot manage, and they don't have credibility. So we need, I don't know what is the university punya selection process, but we need to look at, do you get promoted by the number of research you do or by your leadership qualities? Because it's a leadership role. It is not a teaching profession in a way. So
quite flexible. Then we talk about KPI for each staff. KPI for each staff, even though KPI, actually we have several purposes. One for LMPT, LMPT for every year punya assessment, and then we also have for the purpose of promotion. Benda tu beza-beza. Jadi dia bukan macam industri. We have, for example, automotive industries. Target dia untuk buat kereta untuk achieve profit. That's all. Universiti macam-macam target ada. Kita nak generate duit pun ada sikit. Kita nak develop human capital. Bukan human capital je, yang bersasiah tinggi, yang bertauhid tinggi. Kan dia punya KPI, dia indicators pun macam-macam. Dan kita ada pengajaran kita cerita pasal IR 4.0. But then when we talk about student development, kita cannot just leave it student just upload all the materials in online, YouTube. Tengok, kita kena ada human touch juga. That's why practice in industries cannot be simply convert to educational punya approach lah. To some extent kita terima whatever you told us, kita terima, tapi kita kena tu sikit lah.
I agree. So to bring it to the corporate world is ibaratkan whatever that multinational do, you cannot bring to local company. So contohnya whatever that Microsoft does, which I think is great, I cannot come and tell city, oh, you know, this is done, it can be done. So Microsoft, when this is 2007, I can work from home because you've got all the technology, and it is only white collar. Dia tak ada non-management bawah. But Setia, you've got the whole range of employees. So you have to think of that. So what happens is, if someone, I have friends who move from multinational, tiba-tiba dia kata, oh tak boleh lah macam ni, they don't want to follow. I said, no, you better understand the context. I have learned, because there is context lah, like what you said just now. Tapi it's a holistic thing, which needs to be, banyak benda nak consider. Tapi we need to think about what's there in the future so that kita akan bergerak ke sana. Otherwise, we'll be left behind. Skillfulness, yeah, you're talking about that, right? Skillfulness, tadi I think you were saying that. I was going to say, only the skill can judge the skillfulness, but that is not the same as judging the value of the results. So as a leader, if you're not skilled in your own area, you're in trouble. So you better know your stuff. Because in the corporate world, let's say at my level, when I go for interview, they don't ask me anymore the IR law ke, it's a given. That's why you're there. They will ask me transformational kind of questions, strategic questions. So the same thing with you guys as well. So you got to think about how strategically have you positioned your own knowledge, and when you're dealing with your team, before you then go after them, do you actually role model that? Of course, resilient is capacity to prepare for disruption. So we'll talk a little bit more on resilience very quickly. So here, then we talk about it. So what is the best way to power the leadership within VUCA world? Okay, tadi the first, remember I mentioned to you about the 5 mega trends, that was more on the business. Now HR, as in not just human resource, but sumber manusia lah, as in people, human capital, we have to look at things differently, because this force of technology and force of globalization has now allowed borderless telemobility. So universities, like for example, while we talk about, this cannot change, if you take the changes too slow, you're going to lose your talent, because talent will come and go. There are much more choices. The society, social drives, democratization. So employees or your team members are much more demanding than before, because they don't just accept yes and follow through, because they have choices. So the same thing here, I mentioned this early on. 5 generations working together, baby boomers retiring, BRIC countries, you know what are BRIC countries, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now there's a BRICI, the other I is Indonesia. So these are all the high population who's got high potentials. Countries with the youngest and large working population, migration pattern workers are changing. So these are all now changing. So even your students are, I get my son coming back to me complaining about their lecturers, so they are questioning all those things. You've got a different breed altogether. This is the book that I mentioned, if you can Google and get it. One of the writers is a Malaysian who is residing in New York. Actually, Talent Corp invited him, so I heard him speak. So just to summarize the book, I think tadi you asked, the book talks about, dah hilang dah. Okay, the book talks about lead the work. The future is about flexibility, insights versus judgment. Companies like GEs and Essentials, they don't do appraisals anymore. No more appraisals. Tak ada lagi. What they do is feedback. They have apps which all employees go in there and give feedback. So any employee, let's say I'm working, my internal customer can give feedback to me, and that becomes my appraisal too. So then there's an ongoing. No more already. And then some people talk about bell curve, when you go performance. So Jack Welch started the bell curve in GE because GE was not performing. Bill Gates is a good friend of Jack Welch. We use that. When I work in Microsoft, every quarter I get a list of names, and then Redmond from Seattle will tell me, Nadia, these are the people who are not achieving their sales target. You have to talk to them, because next quarter they don't make it, they have to go. So no joke. And we're still making profit. So it's very highly performance driven, but I think sometimes it's too much, because then now you can't do that in a public university. You can't do that in government agency, because going back to what you say, there's a different mandate. There is this, like my friend who was the HR director for MAS, they said, well, you go in there, there's some non-performers, but can you say, get rid of them, because they are reminded of the fact that sometimes it's nation building. So how do you ensure these people have jobs still? So you have to be creative lah. Sebab the GLC punya mandate is different. You need to create stability as well. So when we acquired IMP, there is no retrenchment at all. We absorbed 100%. There were 17 people, I can tell you, because I was the PMO lead. 17 people. Every month I had to present to Tan Sri Wahid, who was PNB chairman dulu, on a steering committee. 17 people out of 361 people who did not fit in anywhere. So, which means we have to redeploy them. And they are mainly maybe umur dah 48 tahun, 56 tahun. We all know that's not easy, isn't it? Having done that for 20 years. No offense to people older. Look, I'm 50. When I'm 55, I think my adaptability as versus when I'm 45 is very different. But we have to do it. We have to find it. So Tan Sri Wahid said, look, we need to absorb 100%. So as a HR person, as a committee, we have to figure out how to fit in. We did redeploy. So I get some of my GMs, I'm talking openly, and say, look Nadia, I can't. Because this person is not performing. Dia tak tahu buat kerja ni macam mana. Oh, it's going to bring down my KPI. I say, I'm sorry, you have to take, and you have, and my datuk says, no, when you get married, You don't just take your husband, you take your sister-in-law, your brother-in-law semua. Betul tak? So I said we must make sure we help this person. So we have a skill building program, an onboarding program. So for 1 year. After that, then only the performance working in. So we have to be fair juga lah. But you're right, because not every organisation is simple as that. In Microsoft, we were making 80% profit. 80% profit. I worked there for 4 years. I did 3 rounds of retrenchment with 80% profit. That's the worst job that a HR person has to do. You know why? Because we have to help out the other subsidiaries in the world, in the Western world, who are making 40% profit. Because in Australia, their labour employment law is very much pro-employees. They don't work as hard as the Asian. The Asians always get squeezed in. That's the reality. So I used to always bergaduh dengan region. I'm very famous because I disagree with them. And to me, if I'm working here and I don't fight for Malaysians, then I'm no use, right? But you have to take courage, right? So that's the reality. So get this book if you can, and these are the summary. He talks about talent management going out of the box because people are looking at careers very differently. Those in IT, you know, there is this platform, I forgot what's its name, worldwide. What they do is, and many of the freelance programmers and developers are Malaysians. So what they do is, when there is a job, oh my God, I forgot the name. When there is a job, they send out the job. This company send out the job, and the developers pitch in for the job all around the world. And then they present their pitch, and they will choose the best. And then the best, they will be the one who is doing the job for their clients. So the marketplace is very different. And these people get paid US dollars. So when I was in Experience, many of my developers, malam-malam dia buat kerja sideline. Like this, they earn more. And my dear, the world is going to change. It's going to be a marketplace that is opened and everyone else is doing that. So if we are going to sit quietly and not change, we're going to lose all these skills. Because you can sit here in Tarikh Raja and have a laptop and you can earn US dollar and do a job for a global company. There is this thing called GLG. So every now and then they'll send to me and say, Nadia, based on your profile, you may have this expertise. And so they have, say, a Korean company or Korean airline. They want to get some advice on cabin crew rostering. Would you be able to advise? Well, you know, if I think I can, so I would then, of course, they have some question. You advise, you get paid 500 USD, for example. So these are all the marketplaces that are changing. And your students are all going to be the talent that is doing that. Okay? So that changes the way we work. I'm just going to go very quickly. The emergence of me. So choices means empowerment, agility, adaptability, mobility means different perspectives. So the way your students are behaving, very different. Social media. The way you communicate with your team, if you have a Gen Y, that's problem of Gen Y, right? You have to realign how you communicate with them. So Instagram has become the new way of communication. Because once you put things on Instagram, you are communicating to everybody else who's following you. But Instagram is also a very good source of you getting to know your team members, or Facebook for that matter. So there's so many sources that you can know your team. You just have to find the patterns. But if you're not in the game, you'll be left out of the game. So I have a Twitter account, I have an Instagram account, and I also have LinkedIn posting, which I'm quite active, and I have Facebook. But my Facebook is only for people I know. So it's a closed account. My Instagram is public. If you go in there, there's a lot of satire activities and so on, plus my cat. But it's the new way of expressing yourself. So I'm 50 years old, but I will need to work with Gen Y. So if I don't be relevant, I am not in touch with them. So that's one way for me to communicate with my Gen Y. They're all my followers. They know exactly what's happening in the company, even though they're not in the program. And they get excited. So they ask me, hey, I saw that on your Instagram. So that's how you communicate with your Gen Y. Gen Y wants to be empowered. Gen Y wants to be working with a cool person. So figure out, how do you become cool? Okay? Expression, is that new way communication I was telling you. The meaning of work takes a different way. This is the new 4-letter word, Wi-Fi. Okay, so remember this is the Maslow theory. Actually this one terbalik. This is the Maslow theory. You all know Maslow theory, right? But currently there's something down here, Wi-Fi. Anywhere we go, we ask, ada Wi-Fi tak? You go holiday, masuk restaurant, ada Wi-Fi tak? It has become a necessity. That's a simple example, but that's one change, changes the way even us as parents behave at work and at home, at dinner table. So your kids, as I'm speaking here today, you can Google and see whether Nadia goreng ke atau tidak. Because dulu, 20 years ago, kalau I jadi trainer, I boleh goreng, tak apa, tak ada internet, nobody can check. Now I'm standing here, you can check whether I'm telling you the truth or not. Yeah, so that's why you notice some of the things that I take from internet, I will make sure that it's written by somebody also. So the thing about it is cost is very important, balancing it. So you talk about funds and so on. I think that's something that's the university has to figure out, because whilst we want to move the facilities, the technology, but we're not spending. And trust me, it's actually being discussed at higher level. We have discussed this when we have academia and industry discussion, that we said you are limiting the universities because you're expecting the lecturers to move forward, but you're not providing the funds, unlike the foreign universities. So that's something that we know already, but it's good to see it on there. Individual competencies, having said all that, these are the new competencies. Interesting, right? Speed reading. Can anyone tell me why speed reading is up there? Why is it a new competency? We don't talk about planning, project planning, time management, itu sudah given lah, you know. Why is speed reading up there as the new competency? And I tell this to all my new leaders. Huh? Sorry? We have many documents. You know, technology is supposed to help us, but it's not. In one day, you have to look at your WhatsApp message, you have to look at SMS message, you look at email. Supposed to help us, but it's giving us more job. So I get on average 150 to 200. That's why I tell Prof Ismi, please WhatsApp me. You send me email, nanti dia tenggelam kat bawah tu. On average, I get 150 to 200. If I have a full day running training and 2 days I don't follow through, I'll get 400 new inbox. So how do you sift through information? So speed reading is so important because there's so much information that we are trying to filter, and if you don't know how to scan and then connect the dots, where's the connect the dots, you are not going to run as fast. That's the new competency. Social media, we spoke about it. Networking and personal branding, we spoke about it. Influencing through inspiration. Your people, if you're a leader, don't need you for information anymore. 20 years ago, knowledge is power, right? So if you have knowledge, if you don't pass down, your subordinates or your team member don't get information because there's no internet. So knowledge is power and position is power. Betul? Today, no. Knowledge is everywhere. So your subordinate, your team members or your students don't need you for information. But what they need from you is inspiration, wisdom, because you have the experience and the wisdom. How do you tie all your experience and then convert that? Because a young fella, a Gen Y, they are technology savvy. They know how to get all the information. But they do not have the experience to convert that information into meaningful trends or meaningful, purposeful data. That's your role. And therefore, all the more, because of all that, personal branding becomes very important. Your persona is very important. Sebab kalau you tak ada kewibawaan tu, they don't see you because they don't need you for information. They can Google, they can go and banyak lagi channel they can have. So all the more today people are talking about personality and persona. that you need to work on. So in leadership conferences, we focus a lot on that, a lot more than 10 years ago. Okay. How does this define the way we manage the workplace? Of course, we talk about diversity and inclusion. So I'm going to skip a few slides because some of this information, I think today people talk about women. It's not a feminist agenda, but it is a business imperative. It's well known that we have more female graduates than male graduates. We have more female graduates in engineering than male, but when they get into the working space, somewhat in the age of 30, they fall off the market space because they may not have supportive spouse, or they may be in situation where they don't have help with childcare and they have to resign and take care, and it's such a waste of talent for the country. And then some of them, they are so talented, tapi they say, okay, yeah, it's this guilt, right? They feel it's my role, tapi actually dalam they're not very happy. So they're not doing a good job as a mom and a wife too. And this research has been shown. So I sit in the steering committee for 30% club at the national level, which Tan Sri Zarina is the chairman. So we talk about how do we bring 30% of board members representation are women. Now the problem is we can't even get 30% because we don't have the pipeline. They go to university, and in STEM, MDACT and all that, we talk about focusing STEM, and you all know. I was also in that discussion with MOHRM the other day with a group of university lecturers. We were talking about TVET and how we need to have the right curriculum so that when they graduate, they come out to be the right graduates. Some of these things are not considered. So in Setia, we have 42.7% female, and these are all the numbers that we have. Oh, I don't know why it is not showing the numbers. Maybe because of migration to this one. But basically here we have about 38%, 55%, 77%, 7.5%, and this is about 33%. So although we are a technical company, construction and property, we have very low female engineers because it's a male-dominated industry. But can you imagine, we are building houses, who decide on buying the house? The wife, the girlfriend, although the man pay lah, kan? But if we have decision makers who are men, how would they know what is the right design for the customers? So I suspect in the automotive industry, they don't have enough women decision makers. Because when I drive, I don't know where to put my handbag. Men don't have handbag. So this is a real business issue. So globally, we're talking about it not from a gender perspective, but it's a business issue. So we have a women network, which we call WIN, Women of Inspiration at Setia, and I basically lead that. And we have clear strategic objectives, yeah. One is to realize every woman's potential once we attract them. Second, when they come in, how do we retain them? By providing the right work environment. And thirdly, how do we make sure that we raise them up the ladder? That 77% at junior level is because mostly are finance executive and sales and marketing executive. And then as they go up higher, maybe husbands will resign, ataupun self-limitation, women don't have enough confidence, they fall off. Why am I sharing this with you? Because the future is about diversity and inclusion. So globally, everyone's talking about it as a norm. But in Malaysia, we're still catching up. So you need to imbibe that in your teaching among your students, because you are producing the next generation of leaders lah. So I have 2 boys, but I make sure that they know how to cook, they know how to wash their clothes, and I say, your wife better thank me. Because when they get married, they know how to do all this. But generally, people who have got sisters, they tend to rely on their sisters. So we say, we, and all of you are parents, we have to start from here. This is just talking about women, and this logo actually was designed by a man from our group branding department, and this logo has a meaning actually. It talks about the different individuals, and we're all very unique, different sizes, and we come from different upbringing, but together we come together to bring inspiring stories to all other women so that we can grow each other. So we have many programs like Women for Women, we call it W4W, mentoring for women. We have win circles where we have the network for the women to share some of the activities, some of the issues and so on, because certain things you cannot share with the men. Okay? And this, you laugh, but it's true. Certain things we don't tell our husband too. You know, I did this win circle in Johor, and there was this girl, she's an engineer. Hari tu yang the circle is basically you have a circle and then you talk about a topic. This girl just came back from maternity, hari pertama, anak kedua, and she cried. Anak kedua, bukan anak pertama, anak kedua, she cried because she said, actually I don't know how to handle my work and my life because I have a 2-year-old baby and a baby that is 1 month old or 2 months old. And then I come back, my work is so demanding. And my boss doesn't understand me. My boss is a man. And his wife doesn't work. So dia tak boleh menghayati problem dia. And it's true, and this becomes a business problem for us. But the circle helps because in the circle adalah kakak-kakak or some of the women yang macam I yang dah anak dah 20 tahun. So I will tell her the tips how you can handle it better. So we're focusing on women because at national level, you know, the government is focusing on that. But at university, you need to figure out how you're going to encourage your women engineers. I don't know why they drop off. Why do you think they drop off? The engineers and they are all very smart, right? Are your best students coming from women, mostly? It's just smart. I mean, they're smart. It's a waste. From a talent perspective, we have a waste. And we need to work on that lah. So although we talk about diversity and inclusion from a gender perspective, you need to be able to look at it from a leadership perspective. So when you are in your team, you need to be respectful of that lah. Okay, so quickly, actually if we had time, I was supposed to do an activity, but now we don't have time, I'm going to rush through. In summary, this is a leadership challenge, an organization. You look at it, it's quite similar to what you have, right? With all the VUCAs, we need to look at collaborations, personal branding, storytelling, I mentioned, and then the meaning of purpose. The culture has to be of growth mindset, because if you don't have growth mindset, there's a book on it, then it's really difficult to break that. More importantly, it is actually sustainability, and here, self-leadership. I think we talked about it just now, right? Some of you say, how do I align my self-interest and my current role? Self-leadership is the new thing. You have to work on that. Then leading from the heart. Okay, so what? Okay, I'm going to run through this section because it's 1 o'clock. Can I take a little bit more time? And then I just run through quickly, but you can come and talk to me if you want. So, run or you be outrun. That's it. This is a Leopard, all right? And because I actually do, I was doing this talk in Mumbai, February, on agility. So I actually did research. I'm sure you've seen this, right? Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up, it knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. So the lion has to run fast to get the food. But the food, which is that gazelle, has to run fast, otherwise he's not going to survive. So whether you're a lion or a gazelle, however it's going to be pronounced, you need to run. So you ask yourself, are you the lion or you're the gazelle? Okay? In the corporations, we asked ourselves, are we the lion that is out hunting, or are we the gazelle who's going to be hunted, but how are we then looking at creating our own habitat? Okay? Now, I did a research. The leopard is an interesting animal. So I've already bolded that. I'm going like choo-choo train, bullet train now. Okay? So the leopard is distinguished as opportunistic hunting behavior, strength, ability to adapt to various habitats, and ability to run at speeds. 30 years ago, your strength in your business, which is led by leaders, so your strength in universities, in your case as leaders, 30 years ago is about how big your company is. Today is about how fast your company is coming up with new ideas. It's no more about the size, but the speed. So as a company or as a university, do you see yourself as a hunter or not? Because you got to go out there and hunt. For you, you're hunting. Somebody just now said, how do I identify the next talent? Because I think somebody was saying the student move on. How do I identify? So you need to be a hunter to be able to sniff that talent. Because to be honest, lecturers and all of you, we are seeing you as the one who's producing. You're the baby producing machine. You're producing the babies, the talent for the country. So you need to be the hunter to sniff that talent. So whether you are or not, and then we talk about agility. So we talk about it all the time. What is it actually? The capacity to identify, capture opportunities, and more quickly than rivals do. That's agility. So how quickly do you? So I understand from Professor Izmi, if you guys are all the talent, how quickly do you guys learn and accelerate so that supposedly lah, you are supposed to be in the succession lah. Kalau normally when we look at talent, then you should be in the succession planning. Because this afternoon later we'll have some discussion about the assessment. I'm having that discussion with the smaller group. If you are here in this room for a reason, you're not here by accidents or by chance. But you want to ask yourself, because if there are 40 of you, all 40 of you will run at a different speed. So you decide at what speed that you're running. And then you decide where do you want to hunt. It's the same jungle, the same food. So how are you going to be running faster than someone else without killing off the other person? That's important. Okay. Okay, I created this because I do a lot of training and talks. So I thought about it and I said, I normally not a Marvel fan lah. Tapi how many of you saw the last movie? I saw that and I thought, okay, not too bad. So I thought this Wonder Woman was, you know, how to become a Wonder Woman and do everything else because you want to go and, you know, help the world. But you remember that character and then she's got this caring heart and all that, which is very susah lah nak cari kan. But my point is, as a leader, you need to be aggressive, you need to hunt, but you need to have the heart to nourish and to care and to bring that sense of belongingness so that someone like her will feel belong and to have that, what do you call this, nurturing to grow your people for sustainability. So I came out with this acronym, PACS. Purpose, appetite, courage, knowledge, and speed. So, okay, this is me. I thought I would give you snips. I always like to tell the story because for me, I am always looking at how do I reinvent myself. The minute I know I can do my work tutup mata, then it's time for me to learn something new because otherwise, I'm wasting my time because I'm not learning anything. So it so happened, Alhamdulillah, all the opportunities came at the right time. So I was in SIME, I went to SKF. If you notice, all of them are #1 in this category. So you have to choose as well what you want to be in. So all of you are great talent. Great talent knows what they want. BAT, Danone, it's a French company, British, Swedish, Swiss, Microsoft, AirAsia X, Experian, and I'm in Setia. These 4 companies were when I became HR directors. So I'm in my 4th round of being HR directors. Of course, when I first did my HR director role, I was quite nervous. For the first 6 months, I slept only at 3 o'clock because it's a new industry. You notice that these are food and manufacturing. When I moved to computer, IT. I don't even know some of the basic terminology. So I literally had to learn. And I no joke, I tell you, 6 months, every day I was sleeping at 3 o'clock. Because I don't want, remember I talked about form and substance? I got to make sure I have the substance. I cannot be sitting in a meeting and pretending I know but actually don't know, because I'll be found out. So it was painful. But it's worth it, because today I can tell you many stories. I can tell you about deployment. I can tell you about the stuff somebody was saying, teaching Java and all that. When I first joined Experience, I don't know anything. C, Perl, Python, don't know whatever. But I had to learn all that. Because I believe even though I do HR, I must know the business. So for all of you, even though you're teaching engineering, you must know how engineering is actually related to the business. Network with people in the industry, because you will bring more value to your students. Why I showed this is because you need to have that meaning and purpose. So for me, every move was a meaning and purpose. I moved from Microsoft to AirAsia with no movement in salary, because Azran decided to tell me sorry. When he knew my package, he said, I can't pay you more than my CFO. I'm like, then why did you call me? Okay, but I wanted, for every move, there's always a new experiences. So here I was a management trainee. Here I was and I was sent to Sweden every year to set up the learning center in Nilai. And I did, this was 1994, I did the skill matrix and so on. So I went to visit factories in Sweden and France to understand all that, so I can talk to you about pneumatics and hydraulics, microns and all those things, deep heat treatment and so on. And then I went to British American Tobacco, where I did the whole merger with Rothmans. I was in the task force. In Danone, they just bought over United Biscuits. If you remember that Twisties is actually belonging to United Biscuits. So Danone is a French company they bought over. So I took them through the merger and helped them through the region in terms of running through the, so every time is a new experiences. Nestle, I was the first organizational development manager, and I led that project on Nestle on the Move, and I mentioned to you about moving from hierarchical organization to networking. And here, why did I painfully go without any? There's push and pull, to be honest, because I hated the Indian guy that I was working with from India, who was like, you know, even driver dia pun nak bawa dia to court. So to me, my moral compass is just, is what do you call that, is compromise. I would not stay on. So, you know, I spoke to Dato' Yasmin had moved on to YTL. I spoke to her, she said, look, you're already rock bottom. Even if you move without any increment, you're not worse off. So, plus, Azran wanted me to help him with setting up the HR department, because they were going for IPO, and I've not worked for a company doing IPO. So I said, okay, I will learn something. But it was painful, because coming from a BMW to something lower, as in like salary, start the increment, 2 years no increment because they were not making money, no bonus, and my medical benefit from 5,000 a year went down to 1,000 because AirAsia only gave 1,000. But you know what? I never regretted, because I think the meaning and purpose that I was very clear in my mind. And then I went to Experience because I was traveling so much. I was feeling guilty. My kid was growing up, and I was not spending enough time. So I thought maybe I will take this job, which only allowed me to travel twice a year and to Singapore. And I found out it was too boring for me. It was just too boring for me. And thank God, Headhunter called me for Satir. Otherwise, I would already be looking out. So you have to know yourself. But you must know the meaning and purpose, because if you yourself don't know the meaning and purpose, you can't lead your team, because it will show through your face. So it all starts with the leader. How do you inspire, rally, and mobilize your people? So what is my purpose? Just a quick one. When I took the job with Satir, Dato' wanted me to join earlier by 1 month. I had already booked a holiday with my sisters. That means if I were to join in October, I kerja 3 minggu, I kena pergi cuti seminggu. So I told Dato' CEO, I said, I will accept the offer, tapi I need to go on leave Tak ada orang yang start kerja terus pergi leave kan. Honestly, no. But for me, it's important because traveling is important for me, and I know that I will manage my work. So I was willing to not accept the job if he says, no, you can't go for your holiday. Because if he can't, if he can't sink into that, that means if I join and take the job, I will suffer later on because I'll be in dilemma all the time. Because I will need to struggle and juggle with that. Of course, he agreed and I went on unpaid leave lah. So what I'm saying is that you must be in a position to know what matters to you. Because when you know what matters to you and it happens, you are in a happy space and you become a better leader. The other thing is this one, 3 C's, competencies, credibility and commitment. I think you have to have that. You don't have competencies, commitment and credibility, you're out. Be brave but never suicidal. So this is me actually doing the bungee jump in New Zealand. When I said a few things just now, I think I repeated so many times. You have to challenge tapi janganlah jadi dead hero. Okay? So you need to understand the environment. Remember I talk about network? You must lay down your foundation, network with the right people, socialize with the right people, make sure you get through your ideas and somehow have the right channel and have the right way. So don't be suicidal. Sebab some people say, Nadia said, challenge the status quo. Tomorrow you lose your job, don't come and see me. Okay? So never be suicidal. But I think very importantly is always have your feet on the ground. Because today, people are talking about leaders who are humble, and you need, the people are very different, not from those days. You cannot mengerah orang. Your team members will look at you in a different way. So we have to change. Okay? You must be comfortable in your own skin. I think I spoke about it. A leader must have courage. How much is your appetite? A. Ronaldo. All of you know Ronaldo, right? So I'm actually a big fan of him. So he's gone to Juventus. Now I won't support Champions League anymore. I'll go for Serie A, okay? So Ronaldo, if you know of the story of Ronaldo, he came from Madeira, which is a small island, and moved there at the age of 13. And you should watch a video that talks about him. Even the guards, and he was sent across to be in sporting club to be trained as a footballer. He was so focused at the age of 13, his football friends, that he is one day going to be the #1 champion. And the security guard, go and Google the video, security guard says even those days, because they were sent to boarding school and then, like a sporting school, while everybody is sleeping, he goes and train in the gym until the guard has to ask him to go back. So how much is your appetite? And until today, he's still, you all watch World Cup. Did you watch that hat-trick? I think the best game of all, I'm biased lah, is the Portugal and Spain, where he had the hat-trick lah. Right? So, until today, he is still so hardworking. But if you look at it, because some people hate him because they think he's arrogant, but because he's got great appetite. So as a leader, you need to have the appetite. If you don't have the appetite and don't have the fire in your belly, you're not going to be able to inspire your team. So whether you're a Ronaldo or a Messi, nothing comes for free. And you need to work on that substance, even though you already have the form. How do we do it in Setia? This is a wall that you see at the basement of car park. When you park, all the employees park the car, you see it every day. So we do it in our onboarding, and we seek to be the best in all we do. Of course, there's a big question mark. What do you mean by the best? But Dato says that we want to make it simple because we have tea ladies, we have security guards, and we also have GMs. But if you're going to make it so complicated, nobody understands it. So we live by this, and we have this thing called QSERI. Everything that we do, quality, speed, efficiency, reliability, and integrity. Live, learn, work, play is our development philosophy. When we build houses, we use that. You will always have a housing area, school, learning, offices, work, and we have play. Fun environment where they have community play and so on. At the workplace, we follow this as well. So we make sure, actually, Prof, if you want to make a visit, I can open up for a visit. Well, she's been to our place, right? Yeah. We make sure that it's a place where people can feel that it's also home, that they're comfortable. It's not so rigid and so on. So we've got bean bags. When I run training, I have bean bags and, you know, very casual, and so people can play and make mistake. Because like today is a development platform, so it's okay to make mistake, but you learned when you make mistake. We live by the fact that we need to be the people's leader. That's our Hari Raya luncheon with my precast construction boys. That's our CEO. So every Hari Raya, they all put in the baju Melayu, and this is the birthdays. Show the way, be a role model. So Tan Sri Zahid is here. This was in Melbourne, my second month joining the company. So even the board of directors are also trained. And when we go, we visit people who do things better than us. We were visiting this Greek company in Melbourne where they built, you know, kalau the bathroom unit, I think the one who's teaching construction, you would know, right? You talk about IBS system and all that. When the bathroom unit, they built sekaligus one unit, the whole thing. So you just transport the whole bathroom in one unit. Kat Malaysia, we are still buat satu-satu. So when we do that, the consistency level is higher, but for them it's better because their labor cost is mahal lah. Tapi in Malaysia, we're still catching up. So what we do is, we want to make sure we follow the one that is ahead of us to stay number one. This one is our leaders. We still send them for presentation skills, although they are GMs. And this was at Tiara Jacqueline punya place where they use drama to express yourself. I think all of you would know not everybody likes to speak in public, but if you're a leader, it's a job. Whether you're an introvert, you have to be an extrovert somewhat in your job as a leader, because you need to get your team, rally your team together. Right tools for the right motivation. These are our tea ladies. We have about 40 plus tea ladies. Amazing, right? When I first just said, oh my God, we still have tea ladies. We do, because our tea ladies serve coffees for our sales gallery. But our tea ladies also we send for training, because they need to know the standards of customer service that we're talking about. So they're very happy there. We send them for training. Our drivers too. We send for defensive driving, the drivers and the chauffeurs. We're very active in LinkedIn, so sometimes we go and visit LinkedIn office in Singapore. This one is the first batch of our people managers. This old guy, we call him Uncle Richard. He has been in the company for the last 30 years, from bottom, site, ground, to become a manager. We also have dispatched one guy in Amin, started as dispatch, today he's a sales manager. But what's interesting is that when we train them, I have 20 people. So I've got graduates and I've got Uncle Richard who tak boleh nak duduk dalam kelas satu hari tau. You know what I mean, the side people kan. So I need to figure out how do I channel the learning differently. So your students, you need to figure out, because one of the mistake is that I think we're still doing the standard way of teaching. We need to move away from that, because now with technology, people talk about personalization. So in the corporate world, even benefits, we are personalizing benefits. We're looking at flexi benefits. So you have like points, setia tak buat lagi lah, tapi I'm trying to influence them to do it. We have points where kalau you have 20 points, kalau you orang tua, maybe you nak dental more. If you're young, you want to use it for gym membership, for example. So it's personalizing a benefit that will benefit you, rather than have a standard benefit yang may not be applicable to you. So today, we are living in a world where personalization is even more important than anything else. This is the managers program that we run. So we have bean bags set up, not the traditional setup. Long-term incentive. So we do a lot of roadshows, we do a lot of communications. Takes a lot of time, but we have that touch points. That's very important. This is our women celebration, appreciation and recognition. So that's in my office. These were two of them who got promoted. When, I don't know how do you all do it in the universities, I assume that you all have good career conversations in your appraisals. I don't know, Prof. Ismi, whether that's done. Okay. So even in the corporate world, some companies don't have, okay, appraiser KPI, dah buat, tak buat, okay, how actually we should have a conversation. So we're now shifting and asked, where do you see yourself moving? And what help do you need? Why are you not getting to your KPI? Is there something that is not helping? When I came to Setia, I introduced skip level, meaning if she reports, she reports to her and she reports to me, I have my appraiser with her, and then I have another round where she sits with her and me, so that I get to know what's happening as well. But I don't do it without her, because if I do it without her, that's being political. Okay, so it's called skip level, and it helps a lot of open communication. In the beginning, people were not used to it, takut, very quiet. So my job as a leader is to create an environment where people feel safe to speak. And today, from that kind of conversation, I have a lot of information. So one girl said, you know, Nadia, I've been doing this job for the last 3 years. I just cannot take it anymore. I might want to resign. I looked through, asked her, what's your interest? I found out she's good with numbers, and I moved her now to compensation and benefit from training. And now she's happy, but of course it's painful. She said, oh my God, I thought my job was so difficult and important. Now I understand my colleague's job. So now I'm rotating them, because I tell them for them to be a good HR director, they must have rotation. So for all of you, I know you're complaining about the management role and how it is actually part of your development. If you don't do that, you will not be able to have a holistic view. So the vision of the minister is that, well, that was Datuk Sri Idris lah, I'm sure it's still the same, is that, you know, when the deans and you come up to that high level, you're the best CEO for that university because you've gone through, and you won't have all these people who sit in this program complaining about fund, complaining about managing me, because they've been there and they know exactly and they do something about it. So that's why the rotation is important. Be on the ground, listen, be with the team always. We have Family Day. Our Family Day brings about like 7,000 people this year. So it's a big thing. So every year, someone is asked to be a project leader, and it's not in her KPI or his KPI, but it is considered in the extracurricular activity because it defines that person's talent as a leader, because those are project management. Because I understand some of you say, oh lama, I have to do this, not part of my job. But trust me, that's the way how your top management is assessing your talent. So grab that opportunity and take that opportunity as a platform for you to develop yourself. We have these Setia values. Obviously, we are guided by this, but we're looking at shortening it up to 5. These are some of the iconic things that you need because it brings people together. Kalau tak ada, very hard. So I was telling, maybe in this university, you got to figure out what is your way. I don't know whether you have your values or code of conduct. If you don't, maybe the top management or the 40 of you, the talent, you sit down together, come up with something, and this is your work, and say this is how we're going to be guided with, and everybody is on the same page. Does courage matters? Quickly, Tan Sri Rafida was my chairman in AirAsia X. I tell you a story, and why is it under the courage? Be smart from learning from others. Everyone knows Tan Sri Rafida is garang kan, semua orang takut. So whenever we have an inaugural flight, that means first flight to a new destination, she will come. And normally is the wife of the CEO punya kerja lah, duty to take care of her. But for some reason, people will stay away because so scared of her lah. But I always wanted to know her because I read a lot about her and I always wanted to learn from her. So the first flight that was for that year was to Nepal when we launched our flight to Kathmandu. My boss said, okay, who wants to, in management meeting ni, Who wants to go and be the person who takes care of Tan Sri? Semua pandang bawah. I went. I angkat tangan. Because when I do that, I am taking risk. Because he's the chairman and you know she's got a formidable reputation. So I can be found out. It can be 50% good, 50% she might complain about me, right? I tak tahu kan. But I am taking the risk because I want to learn from her. I really do. And I tell you the first trip of all the trip. So we flew from KL to Kathmandu. From Kathmandu, we're supposed to go to Pokhara. Pokhara is about 8 hours journey on road. But if you take the flight, maybe 3 hours flight or 2 hours flight. But Tan Sri decided not to take the flight because she tak trust the Nepali punya airline. So I was in the car, imagine, with her and her husband for 8 hours. Okay. Before we left Kathmandu, so you know she's very detailed. She's very detailed, very highly disciplined. So she said, okay, the bags, our luggage was supposed to go with the station manager who's taking it in another car. She said, Nadia, the luggage. So I nampak luggage tu dah masuk tau. I kata, don't worry Tan Sri, luggage tu dah masuk dah. And guess what? Bila kita sampai kat Pokhara, luggage tu tak ada. Dan sebelum tu, Tan Sri said to me, Nadia, come, I belanja you. So I've been in, don't tell anyone, I've been in the massage room together with Tan Sri. Dia kata, I belanja you. Okay lah, tak apalah. So imagine dengan the massage rambut dah berminyak semua, keluar and my station manager said, your luggage dengan Tan Sri luggage tak sampai. I'm like, you're mad, this is my first trip and what am I going to tell her, right? So, but I have to tell her. So I had to gather that courage because the hotel fella tertinggalkan. I don't know what happened. So but before I tell her, I got to be smart lah. I told my branch manager, you better call the hotel, check kat mana. We managed dengan through the network dia ada semua, quickly sempat get on the flight. So it managed to get us, but it will be delayed by 2 hours. So I had to tell Tan Sri, I'm so sorry, what happened. Okay, so I kenalah dengar sekejap kan. And I thought that's it, there goes my career. But it was okay lah. So along the way, to cut the story short, it was okay. Next trip, Azran said to me, since Tan Sri is comfortable with you, and she's very on time. So normally what we do when we have VIPs to make sure you're there, kan, she will do her own thing and she is on time. So you don't be late. But in the car tu dia banyak lah dia punya, I call it mentoring lah. Banyak lah kalau dia complain, dia kata, you have to tell your CEO this, Tapi you learn through that process. 8 hours with Tan Sri Rafida in the car. You cannot get out of the car, okay? But after that, it seems that okay, the rest is history. The next 8 trips I was with her. Because Azran said, well, she seems to be okay with you, you go with her. And I learned tremendous, to me that is mentoring session. So my point is that you need to take risks. If you want, going back to appetite, what's your appetite level? Volunteer, grab the opportunity, jangan takut. Tapi kalau no, what do you call it? No pain, no gain. But you have to take the risk lah. Okay, so that's one. The other thing, this is Azran. I don't know, some of you know him. He just had an accident. Azran Osman Rani. He was the CEO of AirAsia X and then he went to iFlex. So he hired me in AirAsia X. He's a brilliant guy. Degree from Stanford for engineering, masters in engineering from Stanford, but never practiced as an engineer. He has a CFA, which is the financial whatever professional thing for finance. Also, very good with numbers. And guess what? What is my weakest point? Numbers. And he knows it. So in the meeting, he always, dia tahu I punya kelemahan, he will always come after me. But the thing about working with tough people is that you toughen up yourself. So I learned to be prepared. So every presentation I have to do for him, it involves number. I work extra hard, 200%, sebab I tahu he will come after me. One presentation he said to me, that's not 100%. And I said, yes, Azran, it's not 100%, it's 99.7. Sebab I dah kira sebelum tu. Okay, so, but what I've learned is that sometimes taking risks, encountering your fear is actually good because you get out of your comfort zone. So there is this book by Angela Duckworth. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's also in TED Talk. Angela Duckworth, she talks about grit. Grit is passion and tenacity. So you must have passion. Remember we talk about self-direction, passion and tenacity, resilience. If you don't have that, and please go and Google that. There's a TED talk that she does, and she talks about the research she does with two different groups. I just want to share this quick story. My CEO ceritakan this story with my sales marketing girls. So there's this experiment for two boys. One boy was put in a situation where there's a full room full of toys. But he dare not even touch the toys. So the father said, why? Ketakut benda tu pecah ke apa. Another room, another boy was put in a room full of, was not room, in a farm full of horse shit. Horse shit without the horse. Yeah? And then they left the boy. Later they came back. The boy was full of shit on his face and all that. And they asked, what did you do? And the boy said, if there's a horse shit, there must be a horse. Did you get it? So, these two person, different environment, but one actually looks for opportunity. If there's a horse shit, there must be a horse. So that mindset is very different. Okay, so I leave it to you all to think about it. Taking courage to be relevant. Now this one just quickly, because in terms of HR, for those who are in HR, I think you've heard of Dave Eric, which talks about the 4 quadrants. 20 years ago, it was very famous. Now people don't talk about this anymore. The new guy is this guy, Josh Bashin, and he talks about the whole new thinking. So we all have to evolve. So in the 90s, 50s, is the corporation of the king, because it was operational efficiency. People talk about manufacturing, base and size. Hierarchical leadership in the 1960s, during Jack Welch, GE, GM time, management by objectives. And then collaborative management in the 1990s, where you talk about consumer service, employees as leaders, servant leadership. You've heard of that. Today, it's the world of team leaders, and the teams are kings. So if you heard of Zappos, and you can Google Z-A-P-P-O, Zappos, by Tony Hsieh, he talks about holacracy, where there's no structure, but people are brought in by project teams, and then they are disbanded when the project is done. So these are the new business model that's coming up. When you are teaching your students, you have to be aware of all these new models, because you are growing, your product is 5 years later. Macam kita orang lah. When we build houses, you sign your SPA sekarang kan. We got to make sure the design is still relevant in 5 years' time, because the house is only ready 3 or 5 years' time. So data analytics and so on. Okay, quickly, HR must wear many hats. I'm just giving an example of how we have to change. That's me actually. Second month in Setia, all management staff have to perform in annual dinner. This is Afiq, my HR executive. So this is my tea lady, Shanti, 56 years old. She's very sporting. So, as a leader, I have to role model, right? You think, I told everybody, the new GM, tak apa, we better do this year because nobody knows us anyway. And guess what? Before anything, he said, guess what? They announce your name before you come out. Okay? But I realized when you do this, it challenges us as a leader to be multi-talented, because you have to be multi-talented in today's world. So yourself, being a lecturer or a dean, when you are managing Gen Y, you have to think of their world and how can you be in their world, and that's how you can win them. Actually, I get the best results from Gen Y. So is knowledge something that is dynamic? In the old world, you just create a new world. In the new world, you must have the ability for a good story. How do you create that story? What story are you going to tell your team members? You don't have a fund, so we cannot do this project. Are you going to tell them that? You know you don't have a fund, but you got to get it done. So you figure out a story, and how do you tell that story that will inspire your team to come out with their results? Understanding your value proposition. So this is every time when I do talks when I was working for AirAsia, this is the part when all the men go, because all the AirAsia ladies. But AirAsia, the DNA is useful, bold, vibrant. So when we recruit, we have to look for personality like that. So one of the assessment is that they have to perform because they have to project the persona of interesting. But in Setia, our live, learn, work, play, our culture is very family-based, teamwork. So when I interview candidates, when they're very arrogant and they're not, somewhat too confident, it doesn't sync well with our culture. Even though they're the most qualified candidate, I will not hire. Because when you bring that one person in, disrupt the whole dynamics of the whole team. So you have to remember when you have project teams or you have your staff members, you need to be able to understand the DNA that you are creating or already there, and how does the one member, unless you're very clear, you bring that one new member to shake up, to transform and make a change. So you got to be very clear of what is the value proposition. Okay, I was giving an example of HR. HR those days used to be just coordinator, right? But we need to be catalyst, an organization. I tell you, we have to do a lot of things. The new thing is about engagement. How do you engage? And every year, my team is always question. I say, okay, we have to do something different. We have to do something different. And how do you do something different when you have been doing the same thing 2, 3 sampai dah tak ada idea? But we have to push ourselves because the demand of employees are changing. Yearning, HR must be yearning to look at step forward. So in this case, I was giving a live example, but if you put yourself in there as a leader, you need to learn, you need to read. I think your VC was talking about it just now, right? And is speed really necessity? This is when we launched the Women Network. This is our MC, one of our sales marketing guy. All this we planned for 500 people. We did a video. We did the launch, the background in 1 week. 1 week. Because at the end of the day, execution excellence is important. I didn't sleep. I slept like 3 hours every day. Till the last day, we launched on Friday. Thursday morning, 4 o'clock, I was still editing the video. My point is, in the world that we are living, we don't have the luxury of time sometimes. That's why we need to be very quick, very agile, make that decision if you need to, and quickly leverage on your team. You must understand who your team members are, the strength, and execute it like how you're going to execute going to war. So you need to know your team very well. Okay, I'm finishing already. Okay, Peter Drucker, you all know Peter Drucker, right? He says the aim of marketing is to honor and to know and understand the customer so well, the product or service fits him and sells itself. Because once you start at the right footing, you don't need to sell. It sells on its own. You look at some of the high branding product, you don't need to, they don't do hard selling, kan? Because when you talk about Gucci or you talk about, really expensive product, it sells by itself. You don't need to go door to door and do hard sell. So question is, for you as a leader, what kind of leadership identity that you have that it sells by itself, that you don't need to go and push yourself and promote yourself, but you are a talent magnet. Because one cornerstone of a great leader is that you're a talent magnet. Maknanya, people want to come and work with you instead of saying, I tak nak kerja dengan you. I have got candidates who come in and say they want to come and join Setia. Then they found out this is the manager that they're going to work. They say, sorry, I'm not taking. What do? I tell the manager, you know that candidate doesn't want to come because of you. Because that manager has to know. So you don't want to be that kind of manager. You want to be a talent magnet. Because today, if you are a talent magnet, you're a great asset, you're a great talent. Because everybody wants to work with you. So finally, whilst we talk about relationship, I think you said trust, right? It's not just big relationship. You need to have trust. You need to deliver and demonstrate that. And whilst we talk about branding, it's not just all about hashtag, because now everybody hashtag this and now, and I notice the article is not relevant to the content. So it has to be social media that connects, because it's important. Whilst we say all this, kita kena buat benda yang connects with your audience lah. And whilst it's all about relevance, context matters. So I think our friend here just now was talking about in public university you cannot do as much, but how do you get yourself ready? And finally, leadership priority number 1 is culture. So culture starts here today in this room. Culture starts from you. What kind of a leader that you want to be. So this is a famous quote from Peter Drucker: culture eats strategy at breakfast. You can have the best strategy, but you have the wrong culture, you can forget about it. So it starts from here. So you have to think about what is the kind of culture that you create with your team members. And what does that really mean? I use this cartoon because if you read the cartoon, it basically said, summarize the point of turun ke padang lah, you don't sit in the room and thinking that you're doing a great job. You really, really have to get down. Culture of growing high agility index starts from the top and leaders must drive it. The choice is on us to be relevant, but finally, whilst we say all these wonderful things, it has to be balanced with all the other elements and levers in your organizational culture, your performance management, your reward system, your organizational structure. So I think Professor Izmi is here as well, who will be the voice for all the universities from AKEPT, right? I think in order for, I think you hear them, I think there's a need to think about it from a holistic view about how you can bring about the right structure and environment to bring up that talent capability that you're talking about. I think that's my last, yeah. Thank you. Okay. It's almost 2, I'm so sorry. Okay, any questions? Otherwise, I'm so sorry that I took so long, but we did spend a long time in the introduction just now. Prof. Izmi, you want to say something before we leave? Or you all can come and see me later.
Thank you very much to Puan Nadia Tan Abdullah from SP Setia. A lot that all of us have learned. Let us just give another round of applause for her, I think, half-day standing and sharing of experiences. And I understand, being an academic myself, the struggle is very real for all the deans who are in this room, because the balancing of between being an academic and also at the end of the day, you are managing a faculty of intelligent people. The real struggle is that how do we, at the end of the day, get into the leadership position, doing it well, but at the same time trying to also keep our academic standing strong. Because based on my little experience, Nadia, once you are in the management of the university, in whatever position, it can just be a coordinator going up, you will then lose that balance in terms of getting the academic work strong. Yeah? So for academics, that is what matters, because we have what we call the differentiated career pathway. It's actually a multiple track whereby if you are passionate to teaching, you go into teaching. You just focus on teaching. If you're passionate for research, you go into research. And all these, the KPIs are tangible. Research, it goes by numbers of publication that you do, research papers that you produce, grants that you bring in. But we have another one that is the leadership track that is not given that due recognition. So we're taking your point just now, the voices of everybody here. In fact, I whispered to Prof. Yusri during lunch, all 20 UAs have got to be together to fight for that leadership track for people like all of you who are holding position, doing a lot of leadership roles and also management work. But at the end of the day, when you go for your promotion, the leadership position is not given that due recognition. The weightage is very, very small in our promotion climb. So I guess that's where the dilemma, and that is why the higher education is always facing this leadership crisis. We have got plenty of good talents. Lalu ni academics ni, I call them unsung heroes. You give them work, dia akan buat. They will definitely deliver, they will do the job, but at the end of the day, back in their mind is, my academic climb. It's always that, you know, because at the end of the day, I want to pension as a professor, because that is one destination that we know can be done, you know, as compared to none of us walk into the university, you'll be the VC one day and retire from the university as VC. But you will retire as a professor, associate professor, and so forth. So the struggle is real, but after listening to Puan Nadia, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, my dear friends, like there's no excuse to leadership, because at the end of the day, it is your choice. If you're given the position, it's whether you have appetite for it. If you do not have the appetite, then like Puan Nadia says, sometimes maybe we will just have to be frank. We have got to have the courage to say, no, I'm not holding this position. If we feel that we cannot carry, because we may have to forego one or the other, then it takes a person who has got courage to tell the boss to say that I cannot take this leadership position. Because back in my mind, I want to focus on my research. At the end of the day, can I say as a wrap up that it's basically the choice is in your hands, but somebody in the university has to do this job. And it looks like maybe those who have already been identified as talents, Prof. Yusri punya team will have to work harder to make sure that the talent retention program, like what SP Setia does, can be replicated in a way, yeah. And I think AKEPT right now, we are also going into the sesi turun padang dah, because we know if we turun padang, we can reach out to many more. Kalau dulu kita duduk kat AKEPT, I've never seen all these faces. Tapi now when I turun, I get to see so many people, alright. And yeah, we only see names, we cannot imagine orang ni macam mana kan. So now we can associate the name and the personality. So I think there's a lot of truth in what the industry people do, tetapi Nadia, it needs really a tough change management for all the universities. Yeah, it's all about change management, because having the mindset, and I like to take the gentleman from there talking about our hands are usually very tight because we are governed to a lot of policies, SOPs, yeah, and we don't have the reward system, which is also very true. But I just like to share, kita universiti ni sebenarnya kita badan berkanun. I'm taking one example, University Malaysia Pahang. They are the first university to implement P4P, Pay for Performance, and they have already finished their first cycle. So UMP is right now the first university that has gone up to JPA and kata kita tak nak guna JPA punya system, kita nak guna P4P. And they have engaged one HR consultant 1 year. They sat down, they set their KPIs, they set all their dictionaries, their glossary dan sebagainya. So they have already finished one cycle. And true, coming back to what Puan Nadia mentioned tadi, universities can actually create that personalized punya incentive and rewards. I remember back in UITM, kita tengok siapa yang perform, pegang jawatan, kita adalah kita punya algorithm kan. This person gets to go abroad. Kalau dia mohon untuk pergi conference luar negara, kita akan pertimbangkan dia dalam top priority list kita. So these are all the incentives yang sebenarnya we can work it out. And of course as deans, as deputy deans, you have to sit together with your team and tengok what kind of rewards that you can create for your people in the faculty so that you can boost and leverage on their strength. I don't know whether I'm saying right, but a lot of input from Puan Nadia. Thank you very much. It's been a very wonderful, fruitful and productive half day. The next session, I believe all of you will be outside to do a lot of outdoor. Hopefully after this whole session of this strategic leadership program, we hope that we will be able to strengthen the leadership pipeline of UTHM, and all of you will come out from the box and say that somebody has to do it and I am game for the position. All right, so all the best to all of you. I hope to see you at the top. Yeah, all right, one last from Puan Nadia.
One last, I thought I'll share with you this practice that I do with my team. Actually, before I start anything, I will have a check-in process. Macam you check in into hotel, right? So whether it's a meeting or a training session, so we go around and say, how are you feeling that day, or it could be any topic. At the end of the session, we have a checkout process. So it could be like, which I'm going to do now, but I'm not going to go I think it will be lama lah kalau we go one by one. So I'm going to go by table. What would be after listening, you have to be honest. I'm fine if you say you're totally confused. What would be the 1, 2 or 3 keywords that was like an aha moment to your insight for you after this morning session? So maybe we go by table, because kalau we go one by one tu lambat kan. And I do this as a practice with my team because it's a ritual, because we're doing that in a way, and this is going back to rallying your team, you make them express themselves. After a while, they get used to it. So their communication skills gets better. Secondly, as a leader, you also get input. So for me, after dah kering tekak ni cakap, I would like to know, and I really like to know, because this afternoon we have another session, so I think that will be useful input to gauge where we are today. By table, what would be the one or key 2 or 3 words that you would say that is the aha moment or insight that you got from this session? Which table want to start first? Anybody?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Right, looking from your angle, basically you are coming from private sectors, and then we are here at the university. We have a different form of management styles. But for me, what I've been thinking is that how we can marry that approach from the private sector with the university. Being a dean at the university, in my team, we have a number of people who are working who have many years of experience working in industry. But the way they're thinking is still like the industry, where in the university we have so many challenges that we have. One of it is finance. We don't have enough funding. How are we going to tell our staff, okay, the government now have stopped funding on certain things, and they keep always asking about grants, FRGS, things like that. These are the things that is a challenge to the university at the moment. So yes, I have some ideas about what happening in industry. I'm also working in industry about almost 3 years before I joined the university. But the thing is, it's quite a big challenge for us in the university to follow exactly like what the industry or the private sectors is actually doing. From what I see here is that what important is the role of HR. I think the role of HR in the university is quite different from the private sectors. Maybe they are not really open up. Maybe they are not really open up the way the private sector do things, managing people. But we hope that our HR in the university, basically the pendaftar, will look more towards like approach more like private sectors than the government or the public sector service itself.
I think you're right, but I just give you one tip on the funding. If you think out of the box, one is coming from the government, but what you can also propose, if you can find an organization that will be able to fund, because like organizations like us, sometimes we have a problem and we would like to work with the university who will do the research and do the project, and we can fund it. So, you know, I know there's constraint, but that could be one way of looking at it, yeah.
I think the most important part is speed. Okay, the university doesn't have the agility like company, but we can still speed up things. Probably bureaucracy need to be less. Okay, some people have ideas, but they are being turned down because of so many stages to be put in. Yeah, so I think just like for us to get research grant, it takes 7 months, 8 months. That maybe somebody else already go for it, and we can't become the leader on that kind of things. So we need to have some kind of speed up ways for doing everything, I think, including research.
I think that's good input. Yeah.
sometimes take 3-4 months.
Yeah, but I hear you. So that's what I got to figure out. And yeah, and yes, even in the private sector, I always say change your HR because HR has a lot of impact. I was going to say something just now, but yes, the bureaucracy. Mind you, in companies, it happens as well. In Setia, we have lots of SOP. So when we have people resigning, I do exit interview. And one of the reasons people resign is because of too much SOP law and all that. So we flat it out. And now, the last 2 months, Dato CEO says, everybody look at all your SOP, review it. On the 29th of August, okay, I sit in the steering committee, unfortunately, and I have to listen the whole day. Everybody, every department is going to present and ask for review because he said some of the SOP he designed 25 years ago when he first came in is not relevant anymore. So I agree, and please continue to, don't give up, continue to give that feedback. And as an outsider here, I will try to also help you all whenever we have opportunity to bridge that and help you all because these are real issues. Otherwise, we have wasted talent. Yeah, this table.
Okay, maybe from my point of view, I think it is important for the university to be able to empowering women's lecturer because there are some of us who are who are in long distance relationship with families. So I think that's my priority for now.
Actually, that's important because that issue will come and become a family issue later on. That's why now banyak divorce rate and everything else. So it's been picked up by YB Hana yesterday. She spoke about it. Okay, this table dah, this table.
Check out from your sharing is that I think it's good to have a good slide so the image attract us. For example, like the cheetah sort of thing. So rather than we have a boring slide, so your slide is quite pretty attracting to us.
Thank you. I agree because I'm a PowerPoint queen and I know some people I look at it, aduh, tak boleh tahan kan, just words saja kan. So that's a very important point that you picked up. So when you all teach as lecturers, make sure you have something exciting. It's storytelling. Just pick up a story. I just put out a Ronaldo, but I can tell you a story and relate it to, you know.
Cakaplah wakil muda, staf muda. Staf muda lah, Zack. Oh, lecturer lama marah-marah.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Okay, from my point of view, for this session, is for me because previously I am a tutor here and then go to the lecturer. Now, what I'm going to see from based on this session is we need more apa ni? Apa nak cakap from the apa? We need more apa nak cakap? Kita perlu merapatkan antara yang senior dengan yang junior, close the gap engagement. Okay, tu je.
KMP teruk sikit dia punya engagement.
Right. For us, the most important thing is that to have passion, I think, about the KPI, because just now you said that we have like different paths, right? So for those who is really into research, so their KPI should increase on the number of publication. We cannot put, I mean, everybody the same level. So yeah, I think that one is very crucial.
Okay, thank you. So the reward philosophy has to be corrected as well. Banyak tu nak buat tu. Alright, thank you very much. Kalau ada tersalah silap kata minta maaf. I hope it was very value adding for you all. And thank you.
Thank you so much Puan Nadia Tan Abdullah from SP Setia.